Hello everybody, sorry I'm late. What the F is blockchain? Why does it need you? So after this short disclaimer, I shall be with you. So apologies guys, I said to a few people I'd be going live at 10 o'clock this morning. That didn't happen. I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning sort of going over this video for you today, and then I had to go to work, and I've been arranging a business meeting with an ICO that's coming up. That's very exciting, and that's taken quite a bit of work actually. It's a little bit weird how that's come about, because I was talking to the company over the course of a week or so about token metrics of their business, about how passionate I am about the ICO, because it's something that, as you'll see as we go through this lesson, I look for ICOs that solve problems in the real world. So I'm giving you, it's very important for me that I grow this channel organically and not via other routes. And the only way you're going to grow organically is by, it's very important that my integrity stays intact and you're able to trust me when I give you something that I think is good. Now, I will always tell you when I'm going to invest. I'm always going to tell you when I'm being paid by the company, okay? Whether it's acting as an advisor or whether it's acting in the form of handing over the information to you via YouTube. You'll always know whether I'm being paid and whether I'm not being paid. You will always get the truth. Always know whether I think something is absolute crap and you shouldn't touch it, or whether you should actually invest. Saying that, you should always do your own research, because I can be wrong, as can every other crypto advisor and crypto influencer. I hate that word. The influencer doesn't ring good with me, because it's influencing someone to do something is not what I'm about. It's just presenting facts to you, basically. And yeah, sometimes I'm going to be paid to do that in the future, and sometimes I'm not. But you have to understand, this takes a lot of my time to bring stuff to you and to do ICO research. It takes a lot of my time. So obviously, I will be rewarded at some stage for that. But you're always going to know anyway. But this is, hold on, let me move some. What happens if I put the light there? Right, get down to my Ethereum wallet and subscribe, and send me some money so I can buy a decent lighting rig, so I can get rid of all this black stuff. Anyway, let's crack on with the lesson. What the F is blockchain, and why does it need you? Why did this lesson come about? So quite recently, my YouTube channel become common knowledge among sort of work friends, and obviously I become the victim of the banter, because I don't discuss really any of this other than with close friends. And I've been studying this for a long time, and it's always obviously come to some sort of shock to them that I, have some knowledge about this. So the usual response you're going to get to people that, when you tell them you're sort of in a cryptocurrency world, is that Bitcoin crap. Isn't that Bitcoin? Didn't that dump? That's never coming back. That's just a big bubble of fake currency that's going to just disappear, and everybody's going to lose money, and this, that, and the other, and it's just like a fake currency where people trade like Pokemon cards, and you couldn't be further from the truth. It's actually getting worse, this lighting. You couldn't be further from the truth. I've got to improve this channel. Yeah, you couldn't be further from the truth, because what they don't understand, and I will always explain to people when they ask me, Why are you involved in Bitcoin? And I will explain it's not actually about Bitcoin. And it's about the technology behind Bitcoin. And if they're happy to listen, I'll explain it. But there's a few cocky guys, you know, that go, and I just laugh, mate, because this technology is the single most important life-changing technology that we're now going to see in the next 10 to 20 years, and their lives are going to completely change, and how they bank, how they get a mortgage, how they manage all sorts of different assets. Okay? And they have no clue that it's coming, and it's already here, and it's really an education for people who are coming in new to this to understand how relevant that technology is. And whenever something new comes along with technology, you're always going to get the naysayers. You're always going to get the people that poo-poo it. And it's born out of a fear of change, which is perfectly normal. So you can expect that kind of response from people. I've got no glasses today, did you notice? Anyway, I haven't lost them, I just couldn't be bothered. Anyway, let's get back on topic. So I've got post-it notes everywhere, so I'm going to take myself off screen in a minute. We are, coming into this era. We had these poo-pooers in the dot-com era. When dot-com took off, around about that time, I was actually creating websites, and I learned how to write HTML, and I created websites for a few people. I never really took it off as a business because the technology was moving so fast in web design. With a full-time job, I just couldn't keep up with the advancements in the technology, and it got to a stage now where you could walk into PC World or some other, computer shop and literally buy a disk over the counter that you could take home and plug into your computer, and without knowing any HTML coding whatsoever, you could create your own website. And how has that moved on? Well, now we've got sites like GoDaddy where you can just go straight onto a website and completely design a professional looking website without having to know any code. So that kind of blew out the small web designing business straight out the water. Then obviously you had the dot-com poo-pooers who were saying, the internet's never going to take off. Why would you put personal details online? Why would you send your bank details online? No one's ever going to shop on the internet. Those same poo-pooers are now using Amazon, eBay, online retail, having their shopping delivered online every day without a second thought. The same poo-pooers poo-pooed social media. Why would you put your personal details online, or family photos, or etc., or put what you're doing, what you have for breakfast, or what you have for dinner, or where you're going on a particular day? Yet social media took off at a massive boom, billions of dollars in social media. Those same people that poo-pooed social media now use it every day. I see them on Facebook every day, and I've got a long memory. I remember the guys that were poo-pooing Facebook who are now using it every day. The smartphone era. Why do we need a smartphone? I remember having a flip-out Mercury 1-to-1 contract after 7 every day or something. It was like free to use, and you couldn't do anything. You couldn't even text people. All you could do is ring people. Texting wasn't a thing. That came in later, and then we moved into an era of smartphones where you can access the internet. Oh, what do we need that for? That's never going to take off. Now everybody has a smartphone and can't really live without it. Technology moves on all the time, and now we're looking at another era, blockchain era. And this is how I kind of describe it to friends, but I haven't really described it as well as I'd like to. And I came across a guy called Don Tapscott, and he gives probably the greatest explanation of blockchain that you'll ever see. And I kind of wanted to rip a lot of his information away, put it onto my channel, so that people coming on will get a double chance of seeing it. So hopefully I'll kind of do it justice. But I want to take myself out of the equation here and then that will allow me to maybe just adjust the lighting, and then we'll get into the presentation. So what on earth have I done here? 2 seconds. Let's take me out. There we are. I am disappeared. Now that's much better. Now we haven't got all the lighting issues. So hopefully you can still hear me. I believe you can. Let's see if there's anyone in actually watching and in chat. Can you hear me okay? Great, your eyes are okay. Cheers, Juice. Can you hear me, dude? I believe you can hear me. Yeah, we hear you. Cool. Okay. So let's get into the lesson. Let's have a talk about it, and let's dig out my post-it notes so I don't go off topic, because you know what it's like. I go off topic and then everything goes haywire. So let's get into it. So what the F is blockchain, and why does it need you? So currently we exist with an internet of information. This technology that I'm about to talk about is likely to have the greatest impact for the next few decades. And it's not social media, it's not artificial intelligence or robotics, it's blockchain. It offers vast promise. If I want to send information to you over the internet presently, then I'm essentially sending you a copy. If I send you an email, I'm sending you a copy of information, which is not a problem. But that doesn't quite work with assets. It's no good me sending a copy of an asset. Let's use Jim and Bob down the pub, for example. If I want to send Jim $200, that $200 has to come out of my account. I can't, it's no good me sending Jim $200 and then being able to send Bob the same $200 as a duplicate. So we need to solve this problem, and this problem has been called the double spend problem by cryptographers for years. Now, the current system that we're on is a centralised system, and it wholly relies on middlemen. These middlemen are the banks, the government, social media establishments, and we hold a lot of trust in these people because they're responsible for the authentication of our identities. They're responsible for clearing and settling, and really they get along at the moment without a problem other than their weakness, which is they're open to hacking due to the centralisation. JP Morgan, the US Federation, the US federal government, LinkedIn, even the PlayStation network. I could go on and on and on. I've all learned the hard way that hacking could be a major problem. How many people's accounts and personal information have been stolen via hacking because of a centralised system? The other problem with centralised systems is that it excludes billions and billions of people from the global economy. These are people that don't have enough money to even open a bank account. But blockchain includes these people. A centralised system slows things down. Banking takes days. You perform a transaction, you log into your bank account, and it comes up as a pending transaction. It can sometimes take 3 days for that transaction to actually complete. And when it does, the bank takes a huge percentage if you're sending money overseas, etc., etc. They capture data that you can't monetize, data about you that's held by large corporations and is sold to smaller companies for targeted advertising. You never see any of that money, but that data actually belongs to you. Your privacy is undermined. When a system is hacked that holds your private data, your privacy is undermined. And wealth creation and growing the social inequality. Well, what if there's a vast global distributed ledger with millions of computers available to everybody? There's no middlemen. Well, around about 2008, the financial world collapsed, and a person, or unknown persons, by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto, created a paper for a protocol that used the underlying cryptocurrency called Bitcoin. This created trust between person to person when sending a transaction. The transaction had no third party. It didn't go through a bank. And this either created one of two reactions. It created excitement, or it terrifies the world. What happens if the banks stop getting money and stop getting all those percentages of your money? Now, this Bitcoin is essentially an asset. It goes up and down. It's a cryptocurrency, so it's not like a fiat currency, like dollars and euros, because it's not controlled by a state. The gem really in this underlying technology is called blockchain. And it creates trust by performing transactions peer-to-peer. This is done through collaboration, something called cryptography, and by very clever code. So, how does it work? Assets distributed across thousands of computers using the highest level of cryptography. Miners, if we go on to talk about miners, basically these are people spread out across the world. And they hold in their fingertips some of the highest computing power in the world. The global mining community has 10 to 100 times more computing power than Google worldwide. So let's imagine that every 10 minutes, what we call a block is created onto the blockchain. And it's the job of the miners to solve complex math problems to do with these blocks. The first to complete the complex math problem, because it's often a race, gets rewarded with a portion of Bitcoin. So, this creates a chain. How's it create a chain? Because once that block is then solved, it is then linked to the previous block of transactions, which is linked to the previous block of transactions, which is linked to the previous block of transactions. And you have a complete entire record going back over every transaction that's stored on the blockchain. It's virtually, I would say, hacker-proof. Why? Because if I wanted to send Bob and Jim the same $200 and essentially fool and hack the system, I would have to hack not only that one block, but the entire blockchain behind it. I would not only have to do that, but that blockchain is stored on thousands of computers. They all have the same copy. So I'd have to hack the block, the complete record of the previous blocks, and I'd have to do that simultaneously. I'd have to not only do that simultaneously, I'd have to do that simultaneously across thousands of computers all over the world. that are using some of the finest, if not the best, encryption in the world. And not only while I'm doing that, I'm being watched by the blockchain with the greatest computing power in the world. And so now we can see the value of blockchain and why it's so important. Because now we can store privacy, medical records, land records, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, but you get the idea. It is infinitely, infinitely more secure than a centralized system. And now there are lots of blockchains popping up. Ethereum, which we'll talk as a second generation cryptocurrency, was created by a 19-year-old. This brought something else to blockchain called smart contracts. And smart contracts are essentially what they are on the tin. They are smart contracts. They self-execute. They're responsible for the enforcement, management, performance, and payments and agreements between people. I go to a shop and I use my credit card. I tap it on the credit card machine. That payment could take 3 days to actually be approved and go through. Although I get my product in the shop, when I log into my account, it shows payment still pending. Well, on the blockchain, payment and settlement are the same activity. It's just a change in the ledger. So what can we expect in response from the financial industry? Well, the financial industry has responded by either saying, well, this is a threat to us because we could be replaced, or they have to start looking at how we can embrace it. So what can we expect to see in the media? We can expect to see fear, uncertainty and doubt. It's what we call FUD. Okay, so we'll see lots of media articles by anti-blockchain financial companies that don't want to be replaced. And they'll tell the sheeple out there that don't really know what's going on that Bitcoin is a fad. It's a bubble that's going to burst. And it's not really about Bitcoin, it's blockchain. And the trouble is, no matter how hard they try, it's never going to work. Why? Because blockchain cannot be shut down. It's always going to be here now. You see, to shut down blockchain, you have to shut down the entire internet because it's stored on thousands of computers all over the world now. It cannot be stopped. And so now really what you're seeing is that people are forced to embrace it because there is no other option. And this has brought about the inclusion of companies that want to start their own blockchain and ICOs forming, the initial coin offerings. So for beginners, you're now starting to understand why an ICO popped up, trying to start a blockchain. But why should we care about all this in the beginning anyway? You've probably switched off by now and got bored. Why do I care about blockchain? It's not really going to affect me. Well, it will. You see, the internet has brought wealth, but it hasn't really brought shared prosperity. And it's created social inequality, growing anger, xenophobia, extremism because of that divide in wealth. And the worst and probably the best example would be Brexit. So how do we transform this current world that we live in? Because the only solution to transferred and segregated wealth for us is to tax the rich and then give that to the poor. That then creates resentment with the rich and also the poor who resent the rich because they're rich. Do you see where I'm coming from? I'm waving my arms around. You can't even see me on camera. So what could we do? Rather than redistributing wealth, via that tax system, could we pre-distribute it? Could we democratise the way that wealth gets created in the first place? So I want to give you 5 examples of how really blockchain will change the world. And this is sort of the first one. And when I'm looking at ICOs, I'm looking at, do they hit these points? Are they changing the world? Are they going to solve a problem that we currently have? Because this is going to give me potentially the best return on my investment. Okay. So the first way, currently at the moment, they say there's 70% of landowners that own titles to land, but don't actually own the land. Some dictator can come into power, as happened in Honduras, as we can see here, and you could say, well, I've just bought this land for $200,000, and the dictator can say, well, no, you don't actually own that land. It's owned by a friend of the government's, and we're going to hand that land over to our friend, and you get nothing. Land grabbing. It's happened in history for as long as as long as we can remember. How does blockchain solve this? Well, there's companies that are working with governments now to put land titles on the blockchain. It creates immutable records. Once you're the owner of a piece of land on the blockchain, it can never be disputed, because the records can never be hacked. They can never be fraudulently burned to pieces in a building and then disputed over land ownership. It will always be stored on blockchain. So this virtually removes the problem of land records. 2, create a true sharing economy. Now, although I love Airbnb, we'll give this as an example. Airbnb currently rent out rooms, and they perform a service for people that have rooms to rent. And they go onto B&B and they advertise a room and say, I've got a room to rent, and Airbnb will match them with a customer. And what happens then? Airbnb, a massive corporation, take a massive chunk of a percentage of that payment for the room. Well, let's now imagine an Airbnb blockchain. So now we have a blockchain of information where people can put their rooms on, advertised as vacancies. The blockchain can not only match the criteria of the customer to the room they want, but it can introduce smart contracts to deal with the payments. And even when you rate something as a 5-star room, it can deal with the reputation of the room as well. All of the money can be dealt with via smart contracts and sent directly to the room holder. So there's no intermediary. There's no massive corporation swallowing up all this money. It goes direct to the person that owns the room. Ending the rip-offs. There are well-known money transfer places. It's well known that people have moved from Africa to Western cities, and Eastern Europe to Western cities, who work because they get paid more, but then they send money home. Now, when they send that money home via these money transfer places, often they get stung badly by an either 10 or 20% fee. Not only that, but that transaction is super slow. The family might be waiting a week to get that payment come through and authorised before they can actually pick up the money. Well, then you introduce blockchain. Because at the moment, $600 billion a year are being swallowed up by these companies. Blockchain won't do that. Blockchain will be able to log onto an app. Coinbase, for example. I'll be able to send Ethereum, Bitcoin, or whatever payment method we're using in 10 years' time on the blockchain. It will arrive almost instantly. in my family's account. Not only that, but it will cost a fraction of the fee to send that money. And I'm talking a very maximum of 2%. Would you rather use a bank where you get charged 10 to 20% and waiting 7 days for your family to receive the money, or would you use a blockchain service where you get charged 2% and the money arrives almost immediately? Recapturing identities. Now, this is one that my ICO meeting that's coming up soon, they are actually dealing with this issue. Now, your identity is yours. It belongs to you. Whatever you want to do with your identity and how much information you want to give to a corporation is down to you, or it should be, but it's not, because we're on an internet of information. So wherever you travel, nowadays you leave a digital crumb. And my friends in the crypto world know how good I am at tracing digital crumbs of people, as we've seen on Snowball Mining. But what's effectively happening is there is a digital version of you online. That digital version of you online knows more about you than you know about you. How's that possible? Well, if I ask you what you bought and sold 10 years ago, you might not remember. If I asked you what you said on Facebook about a certain product 8.5 years ago, you wouldn't remember. But the internet always remembers, and it keeps that record in a digital version of you. This digital version of you is basically held by large corporations, and they sell that information to smaller companies so that they can hit you with targeted advertising. Introduce blockchain. Blockchain protects your privacy. All blockchain needs to know is that a transaction took place. It never gives your personal details. If I want to confirm that I sent that transaction, then I speak to the person directly and I can provide them with a transaction ID that shows that I sent the money to them. Okay? But most of the time, if I'm going to send Ethereum, I'll tell the person you should receive it in the next 5 minutes. This is how much you'll receive. Once that money arrives, they know generally it's from me. But it never supplies who it came from. They'll never be able to track that I sent that it was me personally, my name, address, date of birth, and all these other things that can be hacked or can be sold. So now I'm in a position where I get to choose how much information I give onto the blockchain, or I give to a certain company or a certain blockchain. And for doing that, I get rewarded by the blockchain. I get paid from the blockchain to give this information. And when you see the ICO review that I'm going to do probably next week, where I'm having a business meeting with them, you will be paid on how much information about yourself and your likes and dislikes you give to them, to enable them to give targeted marketing to get you to a place or a venue. So now, rather than these big corporations holding all of the money and selling all your data and you not seeing any of it, now you're in control and you can actually start earning money from telling companies about yourself. So it brings us very nicely into number 5, which is the redistribution of wealth. Now, I watched Joe Rogan's podcast and he was interviewing a guy and they were talking about the problem with the music industry and the corruption that allegedly goes on within the music industry and how many artists are broke. Smokey Robinson, a legendary artist, is apparently broke. And when he went to a record company because he was owed something like $48,000 in royalties, they told him here's $36 and a pizza and be happy with that. Well, that's ridiculous. Ridiculous. So these large corporations are swallowing up the money. Where's all that money going? Well, now artists have the option. They can now put music onto the blockchain. Imogen Heap or Hemp, I think her name was. She's adopted the blockchain with her music. So what can we do with it? We can introduce smart contracts. So that now when you go onto her website or onto her blockchain where she's selling her music, I choose to listen to her music. That might be free. I want to download the music. I pay a very small fee. Or I want to use the music on a YouTube video, or I want to use the music in a film. That smart contract will handle that negotiation and the payment. And rather than the payment going through the record company that take $47,970 and then give the other $30 to the artist, every single penny goes back to the artist and it cuts out the middleman. So now we can see how blockchain is going to virtually change everything that we know about the internet and how businesses run. Now, blockchain really can only succeed with one main thing, and that's that people choose to use it. And we're seeing artists now coming on who are using the blockchain, and we're seeing new companies using blockchain as a preference over centralized systems. So why does it need you? Well, because it needs investment. When you see a new ICO pop up that's creating a solution to one of these world problems that you see pop up, or one of these problems in the asset list that I showed you back here, whether it's to do all these ones in green here, what I'm looking for in an ICO, does it solve a problem with money? Does it solve a problem with identity, personal records, medical records? Is it involved in energy? Is it involved in art? Or is it involved in a voting system or any other financial asset? Has it got anything to do with contracts such as deeds or intellectual property? These are the solutions that I'm looking for a new business in blockchain to create, because that's probably the most likely to give me a return on my investment. Without our investment into blockchain, these companies can't create these blockchains that create these solutions, and that's why it needs you. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. So yeah, it's an interesting topic. Let me bring myself back here so you can bring on some crap lighting. Yeah, it is one of the most interesting things going on on the internet at the moment, for me anyway. I'm like massively passionate about it. Anyone that talks to me will know how passionate about it, and I hope that I've done that presentation justice and that you fully understand how that works. And yeah, keep an eye out for the ICO that's going to come out soon, because it's a great idea, I think, and it will change certain aspects and compete with major companies, and they've already secured major partnerships with companies, and hopefully going to be looking a little bit deeper into their token metrics tomorrow, and then we're going to maybe discuss it next week. And it's going to be an interesting week this week. So anyway, we'll get onto some more fun stuff next week. After the weekend goes, we'll get into some more scammy ICOs and that sort of thing, and looking at some funny videos of the team and bits and bobs. But yeah, I just wanted to have something on the channel that really sort of gives a good explanation of what's going on, And this is the longest video I've ever done. No one's going to watch it. I don't care. I've had fun. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. I hope that's cleared up a few things. And if you're a new investor then and a new person to blockchain, and you've never understood it before, then I hope that's really cleared a lot of things up for you. But until next time, I shall see you soon. Subscribe. Thanks, Juice. Juice has had a good one. He always enjoys the videos. And yeah, have a good one. And yeah, I've got the business meeting this week. I will update you probably on my Telegram group, so get over there. Get onto my Twitter, which is @CryptoDobbo. I'm on Twitter. Twitter's actually got a larger following than YouTube at the moment. So Twitter guys, get over to here. YouTube guys, get over to Twitter. So I'll be able to update you very, very quickly about what's going on. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to talking to this company and seeing what's going on behind the scenes. And yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff. And meanwhile, I am still looking at other ICOs, and we'll be heavily rattling out a few ICO reviews within the coming weeks now, because I'm pretty much ready to go. There is some lessons that are coming out soon on creating your wallets, because I'm aware that a lot of you guys are wanting to, obviously, you know, and this is the most important thing, keep your assets safe. If there's anything that you want me to cover, whether it be you want me to look at an ICO, there is something that you don't understand on anything in the crypto space really, and you'd like me to do a feature video about it, just message me and I'm more than happy to sit down and go right through an ICO, whether you think an ICO is a scam or whether you think an ICO is really good. We can sit down and we can work it out together and see what the overall consensus is. And I'm a bit drained today. I'm not my usual chirpy self, and I'm working long hours at the moment and fitting all this in as well, so I'm like really tired. So, but yeah, I'm glad you had a good time. It's 42 minutes now. It's way too long, so I'm going to get out of here. But yeah, have an awesome one, and I'll make sure I time this right for the guys. Oosh!